Today on Supernormalized, we have Laura Van Tyne. We're going to dive deep into transformative journeys beyond the surface of reality as it stands. Laura is a remote viewer, speaker, author, true guide into the unseen realms. She's had a lot of experience with entities and spirits and, well, I'd say like nefarious greys that actually have come through and impinged on her life with her family and her experience of the world, and being basically strong-armed into an understanding of that, and then working with that and how to actually become sovereign in a being in herself again, to be able to basically have a normal life amongst all of this spirit activity. It's a great conversation, and she gives a lot of really good tips on how to work with that and how to basically reclaim your peaceful soul path. So if you enjoy that sort of conversation, this one's for you. On with the show. Looking at the statistics that I have for YouTube and for my podcast apps, I have a lot of listeners and viewers that aren't yet liked and subscribed. So if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. It's free. And if you're on a podcast app, please give me 5 stars. That'd be really cool. It helps other people find these great conversations too. Thank you. Welcome to Supernormalized, Laura Van Tyne. Laura, you're a remote viewer, speaker, author, true guide through the often hidden realms of spiritual warfare, soul sovereignty, and energy protection. That's a huge badge to wear. You must have got some scars on the way. How about
Yes,
you
I
tell
do.
your story?
I got a few of those. Yes. I started out as a middle school's teacher. So that's where it all started. So I like to say I switched out my demons, but actually I loved my middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not watching.
I know, right? Yeah, I started out on one path and then life happened and I just took a complete left turn or maybe a right turn. I don't know, but I got turned around. I literally had to stop teaching. And I went from mom of 3 daughters, teacher, coaching sports on the weekends, that kind of lifestyle in Southern California. One day, the paranormal hells just rolled open in our house, and I didn't know what to do. This was
Oh,
about 20 years ago.
you weren't playing with any Ouija boards or anything odd?
To this day, I have never touched a tarot card or a Ouija board.
What?
Nope.
How's that even possible? I
You
mean,
know what? I don't need it.
okay, so your intuition is that open that things
Yeah,
just
I
pop in.
don't need it. It's not that, with the exception of a Ouija board, I would say, use caution, but
Of course.
trust yourself. And, the biggest element of being human is to learn how to trust our intuition. That's our superpower. It's not seeing dead people.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's natural for us to all try things out and do unusual things as kids. I mean, that's just what you do. So I think that's also a part of getting a thicker skin and understanding that the spirit world is actually real and it can harm you.
Yeah, that's how it started out. And one of our daughters just became super psychic. I was psychic as a kid, and my parents were like, "Yeah, don't be weird." I'm like, "Okay." And I just do my own little thing as a kid. And I didn't think twice about it. Right. And I think that was the light side protecting me as a child. And then when one of my daughters became super psychic, I mean, every week there was a new ability unfolding within this kid. I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. So this is almost 20 years ago. And my kid could see through walls and doors. Okay. I didn't know what that was called at the time. And I'm literally Google searching see through walls and doors, see in another room. I didn't know what remote viewing was called. That's how I got started. That's how naive I was. And so she was remote viewing, and then all of a sudden I was able to remote view. And it's usually a learned skill set, but it became so intrinsic within me. And it tells me that I've probably done it before. These natural talents that we all have them, usually means that we've done this in previous lifetimes. The 3-year-old prodigy piano player. Where did that come from, right? So we have the hells rolling through our house. I mean, it was ghosts, it was the Hat Man, it was the Shadow Men, it was this 3-headed crocodile. It was on and on and on, which the 3-headed crocodile was a shapeshifter, which was a reptilian, but I didn't know what a reptilian was.
Yeah.
This is almost 20 years ago. We're not talking about things like that 20 years ago. The internet is nowhere near sophisticated as it is today either. So I had to figure out how to solve my family's problem. And I eventually stopped teaching, and here's why. We all have these defining moments, right? This moment in our life that changes our course of action. We know where we are when a certain event took place. In the United States, we can all say, I know where I was when 9/11 happened, right? That kind of thing. My defining moment was our little girl came racing down the hallway, jumped into bed with us in the middle of the night, and whispered so loudly in my ear, Mommy, Mommy, the shadow men are in my room, and they said they're going to steal my soul to break you. 6-year-olds don't talk like that.
No,
That was my defining moment. I stopped teaching. I had to figure this out. And, he's now an ex-husband. My husband was very supportive of this, which I'm very grateful for. We had to figure this out because these things were not leaving our house. It was not unusual to have a bunch of ghosts, a bunch of dark entities just roaming through the house. I don't know to this day what triggered it, but I do know that the dark side got greedy because as angry as I was with God for allowing this to happen, we're just a normal Southern California family. That's all we are. So I thought. And I believed in angels, didn't give much credence to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, angels, they exist, whatever. This is where I was at. We all have a learning path, but the light side, the God source side, allowed this to happen because that was my training ground to do what I do today. I can look back at it through a different lens, but I was really angry at God for the longest time for allowing this to happen.
sounds like you're almost strong-armed into doing it. Like, this is your only way. Like, come on. You
I do feel that way. This is one of my soul mission.
Yes,
I could have stopped at some point along the way, but I knew that wasn't the right answer also. And so I also know my family probably isn't the only family going through this.
that's right.
And
That's right. That
so
which
I
is that
have to take what I've learned and pass it forward.
exactly, which is the whole reason why I run this podcast, so people can hear about these things and realize that they're not the only ones.
It's a lonely place to be when
It
you've
is.
got the dark ones after you and you think you're going insane. You can't sleep at night. You're waking up with bite marks. You're waking up with claw marks. I don't want to scare people, but knowing that this stuff exists, knowledge is power. So my whole deal, my whole shtick is not to talk about the problems, but to talk about the solutions.
Yes.
Because everybody talks about problems all day long, but when do we talk about a solution? That's the answer right there. We have to talk about the solution. Rip the
Mm,
Band-Aid off. And by the way, I've tried many things, okay, all along the way. I was like every psychic, every shaman, every this. I kissed every like psychic frog along the way, looking for answers. 95% was what didn't work. And it was so disheartening, but I still learned something. I learned what didn't work. Okay.
yeah, no, it's harsh and hard to be in a world when you don't have understanding from the people around you because it's well, first of all, it's not even acknowledged. It's just seen as something that's in a horror film for one reason, for
Yeah.
some reason or another. And I think
Or
that
a
might have been part.
psychosis, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And all of those sort of labels don't help. I mean, of course, there can be some people with imbalances in their brain chemistry and everything, but I have to also say, then what if that's actually the portal that they come through?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And from your understanding too, that would actually also then play into the understanding that there is spiritual warfare going on, and there is something out there that does have an ill intent for our souls. But then there is also the other side of that too, which is we're being beckoned towards a greater connection to spirit.
Absolutely. When we look at, I'm going to call it the dark side versus the light side, right? These dark beings could be fallen angels, it could be, it could be reptilians, it could be anything. When they left the light of God's source energy, they left an energy source. They needed to figure out a way to sustain themselves. This is the crux of the problem. They are nothing more than parasites for us. We do not need them. They need us. Knowledge is power. Okay. They need us. So now I know that. I don't need them. I don't have to wallow within them. The light side is God's source energy. the angelics, the Arcturians, all of these light beings are here to help us, and they're coming in and they're assisting us more and more and more. And that's what we have to remember. So when we're dealing with the dark and the dirty, the unseen energetic world, right? There's this world around us that exists that we can't see. And it's no different than 200 or so years ago. We didn't believe that washing your something as mundane and simple as washing your hands could save lives, right? It wasn't until the invention of the microscope that we could start seeing the bacteria and the viruses. And we're like, whoa. And then the doctors started studying the behaviors of the bacteria and the viruses so they could learn what aids them and what eradicates them. This is the same thing. This is no different. So, washing our hands, cleanliness is next to godliness, does do something for us. And our
Mm,
technologies are greater right now. Our cameras pick up a lot more than they ever used to. The concept of, photographing orbs or whatever, ghosts, angels even, is more and more common. It's more and more acceptable.
mm,
Well, it does also speak to that intersection between realities where we experience this one and then the other ones are intersecting with that at the same time. And so the experience of those beings in other dimensions, may not, sometimes they may not even realize they're parasites. That's something that I found personally. Like I had for a while some spirit attacks happening early in the morning where I would have this awful dream about my father being in pain and crying and everything. And I'd wake up crying and go, what the hell? And after 3 nights of this, I was like, nah, that's not real. And whoever this is not my father. It's just, jumping in, grabbing my memory of my father and turning it into a dream that actually gets it some energy. I confronted it the very next night and said, who are you? What do you want? And it said, I'm just hungry. I'm here to feed. And I was like, well, okay, then. So what's your experience of this? And it's like, well, I've just come to this place and I feed and this is how it turns out. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to tell you, for me, it's not good. And
Yeah.
I
Yep.
and he'd understood, and I'd say, "Well, what can I do? Because I have to feed." And I said, "Well, okay, well, you need to go towards here." And I pointed in the right direction, and it disappeared, never came back. And it was a dissolving moment for that being, and also for me. It found resolution, and I found resolution because I gave it more understanding of who it was just by interacting with it in a different way. But it didn't even know that you could do that, and neither did I until we both had a go. So it was quite interesting to see that that's possible.
Every
Now,
problem has a solution, right?
it does, it does. Now, your work touches on complex themes like entity removal, quantum healing hypnosis, and MyLab recovery through regression therapy. Can you break down some of these concepts for listeners who might be new to these topics? I mean, a lot of people probably don't even know what MyLab is. So, for
So
example,
these okay, so first of all, I'll just kinda break it down a little bit. We've all been here before. We all have past lives here and on other planets. Okay. So what happens when somebody hires me for a past life regression? Okay. Past life regressions are good for figuring out why these blockages exist in my current life. Maybe I have financial blocks or relationship blocks or health blocks. So we can look at the most impacted past life to clear that energy so that this lifetime can be more fluid, more at ease. That's one aspect of it. I get a lot of people who were unwitting military participants, meaning they were taken as children, they were experimented upon. They can also be, a lot of times, it's related to gray alien technologies also. And so, with the MyLab recovery, what we want to do is we want to uncover these memories because they do repress memories. I'm not sure if you remember hearing this clip about Ariana Grande. Was it Ariana Grande? Who was in an interview and she says, "Oh, I had this memory erasure program and I don't remember." It was like all over the news. And then they
mm,
quickly took it off. So we have the technology, but should we have the technology, right? So when it comes to military, MyLab, the MK Ultras, these are like CIA experiments, governmental experiments of mind control and testing things along those ways. Super soldiers is another example. Those all kind of fit into the MyLab bucket, so to speak. When we can uncover the memories and start to heal the soul and repair the soul, Because what happens is during these times of trauma, and it could be a MyLab trauma, it could be a super soldier trauma, it could be a trauma of just being a child. Traumas fracture the soul, and we need to heal them because a fractured soul allows for the dark side to kind of weave its way in at times. So when we learn to heal the soul, and we can do it in many different ways, it creates a force field around us, our auric field, that energetic body around us that acts as a force field. So we all have an aura in theory, and it's like this force field around us. Do you remember the old Star Trek TV shows? And they're like,
Yeah.
Captain, the shields are at 80%, and everybody's kind of wobbling, right? And
Yeah.
then, Captain, the shields are at 20%. Everybody's like, whoa, right? Very fake and canned. But that's an example of an auric field. When the shields were down to 20%, those creatures started coming into the ship.
Mm,
There's the metaphor right there. So the
yeah.
stronger we can the stronger our soul, the healthier our soul, the less fractures and the less breakthrough we can have. So I hope that answers the question about the MyLab and those elements, because these are people that have been taken against their will in most cases.
Mm.
Their free will has been mitigated. Nobody has a right to mitigate our free will.
Yeah.
And to help them heal is a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And about entity removal and quantum healing hypnosis, can you break down those concepts as well?
Yeah. So that unseen energetic world exists within all of us, whether we believe it or not. So you were talking about the dream with your dad, right? There
Yeah.
was some type of dark entity trying to attach itself to you, to take your energy. And they like to elicit fears, sadnesses, these what we would call lower frequency emotions. They like to elicit these emotions from us and extract them. So that's what that being was doing by putting false knowledge, not even knowledge, but a false story within your
Experience.
head
Yeah.
to get you to become at a certain lower frequency vibration so it can extract your energy. You had the wherewithal to remove it yourself. So a lot of times, and frankly, that's a little bit more on the rare side. Okay. It tells me that you've got a really strong foundation about you. And just because somebody doesn't have a strong foundation about themselves doesn't mean they are less than. It means that we all have things we deal with. We all have different backgrounds. We all have a different childhood. Sometimes our goal in life is just to survive childhood, right? So when we're dealing with entity removals, I have a way where I'm working with you and we create the space in the ether to see what's happening. I'm not working in my space, we're not working in your space. Because if I go into a haunted house, I could get pelted so easily, I could get hit so easily. So we work in the ether, and I have a way to get you to see, I get you to remote view with me so we can see what's happening together. And I ask you questions, I'm not going to say, oh, did you see this? Because that's leading the witness. So I have a methodology that I use that I've created. I'm actually working on trying to teach it right now because I feel like that's the next step. So you can see and sense what's going on. If you see something and I don't, I never want you to assume that I'm right and you're wrong. We work through that problem together. And so when we see what's going on, and maybe it's just a bunch of gray aliens who have been abducting you over and over and over since childhood, we have the ability to remove those grays and send them back to source so they will never bother you again. Now, if you're living a life where we remove the grays, but you're drinking heavily, you're doing drugs, you're leaving a crack open in your foundation. More will come in. So we really have to work on creating a healthy lifestyle too, as above, so below. And I think, honestly, I'm pretty successful in this because we're utilizing the third dimension, the fourth dimension, and the fifth dimensions and higher. That third dimension is where we live, time, space, and gravity, physicality. The fourth dimension is where the lower astral plane, the hells, these beings live. And it was hijacked to take our energy. The fifth dimension and higher is where the angelics and above live, those light beings reside. And so when we can work through those dimensions, we get to clean and clear things faster and better. And I probably get about 10 testimonials a month with life-changing affirmations. And for me, it's just the thrill of a lifetime to give somebody their life back because they are so frustrated that nothing works for them, but they don't know why. They're good people.
Yes. Yeah. 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 It does speak to that overarching concept, which is coming through in reality. I'm seeing everywhere that this is co-creation, and we're wholly responsible for what we're bringing into our lives by what we introduce into our lives in the first instance ourselves. So everything you speak and everything you think manufactures the reality or creates the reality that you are embedding yourself in. Your environment is your experience and your understanding. So depending on what you feed yourself with depends on what is created around you. So, I always say that with a like a little bit of a flag of caution. It's like, are you watching, for example, a major streaming service that has murder porn on it continuously? Right. And that's considered to be entertainment by a lot of people nowadays. And why is
It
that even?
feeds the dark side.
That's right. Why open those doors?
Violent
And
video games are very addictive
yeah,
for
well, I
this
mean,
reason.
I think it's because everyone is so numb because of all the distractions. So when they get an experience of seeing something like that, they don't understand it. That the mirror neurons in the body mirror that as if you're experiencing it. So you get the flight or fight reaction. You're like, oh, this is exciting, but that's not what's going on. Your body's actually interrogating, this is horrible. Is it happening to me right now because I'm watching it?
Yeah.
And then that leaves you open to drinking by spirits.
Absolutely. One of my biggest concerns I have for humanity right now is our children. Our children are no longer allowed to be bored. How many times do we go out in the store, the supermarket, the restaurant, and you've got a kid in the stroller or a buggy watching mom's phone, right? They're not allowed to be bored. They always have to have a dopamine hit. And so, as a former school teacher, I can see a difference in the kids. They are not engaged. There's just numb from like exactly what you said. This is a serious problem I think that we're going to have in the next generation is we've allowed our children to never be bored, to never be without a screen in front of us, especially the blue screen which lights up the brain activity chemically. That's a big deal. So we have to really and then when we take the screen away from the kids, they scream and cry like they're bloody murdered, they're gonna die, and so we give it back to them.
Yeah.
So you we're creating cracks in our children's foundation through placation. We need to wake up with this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the screens are addictive. I mean, I've been addicted to them in the past myself. When Facebook first came out, I realized how much of a time hole that was,
Yeah,
and
right?
ended up actually deleting my Facebook for a number of years. But I only reopened it again because I have clients because I do marketing as well.
Mhm.
But otherwise, yeah, the social media is designed to be like a slot machine giving you mental rewards of dopamine just for using it. And the algos are designed to keep you there and keep you looking and keep you watching, keep you interacting, and to be real, it should be called anti-social media because it causes you to be in relation to the silicon being, whatever that is, because we're not really sure what that is yet or where it's going. Obviously, it hasn't been healthy for anyone as yet. It's
Yep,
created some connection in our world. I've got to give it some grant,
right?
some
We're
grant
talking
for
across the
that.
world here.
Yeah, that's cool. But this is a good thing, right? And we can talk about this because of that. But taken to the logical extreme when it comes to distraction, it's not healthy, and it is creating dopamine addicts. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yep.
good we all recognize that. You emphasize soul sovereignty and free will in your teachings. So, why is reclaiming your own soul sovereignty so vital in today's world?
We have back to the Fray effect, the mind control, lack of free will, soul sovereignty. The Fray effect was discovered in the 60s, but the nefarious alien agenda has been using it for millennia. It is this mind control technique that I believe started with the US government, where they start putting in sounds and thoughts in our heads through frequencies. And this started in the 60s. And this is kind of how the super soldiers and everybody were born out of. And what's happening is our free will is becoming mitigated. I don't know how deep I should go, I should say, not need to go, because I can go pretty deep, but we've done all of these things to ourselves, or they were forced upon us, okay? And what's happening is our frequency signatures are not ours anymore, and they're being tapped in through certain elements. Maybe it's nanotech and 5G. Maybe it's certain medications we've been given, the foods that are being poisoned, the certain pollutions in the skies, right? This all impacts us. It leaves us cloudy. It leaves us foggy. It leaves us kind of making bad dietary decisions also, because we're just so numb. We have to become proactive with this, because the dark side, this is all about the pursuit of the human soul for the dark side, because they cannot sustain themselves with us. So when I work with somebody, I always make sure that those dark ones, whatever, if they're lower realm entities or reptilians or whatever, they all get sent back to God's source energy, so they are forever off the earth plane. Because our soul sovereignty it's in jeopardy right now. I'm just going to be blunt. We think that we have free will, but do we really? Because all of a sudden my thoughts are fear-based. Well, fear is a form of mind control, right? So we have to really think about what is really truly to be fearful of. So for example, fear in small doses keeps us safe. Oh, don't turn left, the car runs a red light and you go, whoa. Fear in large doses freezes us. It keeps us from moving forward. Fear in even larger doses starts playing with our mind. Now somebody else has access to my thoughts. This is what we have to break. Working on a healthy body, one of the things we can do is strengthen our mitochondria. So we have 37 trillion cells in our body. Every cell has between 1 and 10 mitochondria, the powerhouse cell within the cell. When we can have strong mitochondria, it really helps to break off that mind control element. And it's good food, exercise. It's that simple. It's kind of boring, but it's that simple. You can take CoQ10, NAD+, and some other things to help with it. Methylene blue is another one. These can help with creating healthy mitochondria, but when our body and mind are healthy, they don't have access to us. And that's the goal. This unseen energetic world is I want to say it's getting stronger and stronger, but it's finally starting to get weaker, because we know.
Yeah, it's been exposed, definitely. And I think that exposure is something which is a part of the natural progression of the swing of the pendulum of understanding of reality. So it's
Yes,
good to see it's going the other way again. I'm really happy about that.
it is.
For a long time there, I was thinking, oh, this is hopeless. I'll just trot along and be the chameleon and hide. And now I come out, I can actually
Yeah.
tell everyone that, the world is changing in a good way. Can you describe what it means to grow a soul tribe or get into contact with your own spirit team? And how does this community of beings support your own spiritual journey?
A good question. So Christ talks about life everlasting, not death everlasting, meaning our souls are eternal. While we are in these mortal physical bodies, these bodies are just rental units, right? When we're done, the energy that animates the soul has to go somewhere. So, what we want to do while we're living this mortal life is learn how to connect to the higher realms. The easiest way to do this is through angels. Okay. Everybody has access to angels, but what have we been programmed to believe about angels? My problems aren't big enough for an angel. I need to save all my little angel chits to make the big ask, or I'm not worthy of an angel's help. How many of us have been thinking those thoughts or told those thoughts, right? The reality is, angels need us as much as we need them. Angels earn karma for their service to humanity. They are here to serve humanity. They cannot violate free will or spiritual law, meaning I have to ask them for help. So they can't just be standing around, you're going through a crisis, you're not asking them for help, they're just watching you go through a crisis. So what we want to do is we want to start eliciting the help of angels. Do it every day. Do it for the mundane, okay? you know what, I've got a family of 5 and food prices are going through the roof. I need a really good sale on vegetables, whatever it is. Or I need a good parking spot. Okay. Ask the angels. Say, angels, hey man, literally, I need a good parking spot. Okay. It will show up.
Yeah,
What
it
you're
does all the
doing,
time.
yeah, right? And what we're doing is as we're connecting to the angelic realms, we're earning the karma to have more of them assist us. We're also earning karma for helping them, and they are earning karma for helping us. So if we don't ask for their help, they're stationary, they're stagnant. They may go off and help somebody else. So make the ask. A lot of times people ask me, well, what do I ask the angels for? All right, if you have children, small children at home, and one of your kids is going through night terrors or sleep paralysis, which is rather common. And we know why, because you so eloquently explained what that process could be like. Fill your child's room full of angels. I'm requesting a phalanx or a choir or a large number of angels from the higher realms, not the fallen angels, right? To come into my child's room from the moment he goes in there to go to bed to the moment he wakes up, to protect him, to keep him safe, to keep the negative thoughts from coming in. It's amazing what this can do. This is a spiritual practice. It's one of many spiritual practices we can do. Doctors have practices, lawyers have practices, right? It's a practice. So the more we practice, the better we get at it. It may take me 5 minutes to make the request for a group of angels today, but in a month, I can do it in 12 seconds because we're practicing. So angels are our first line of spiritual defense without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of experience with angels myself and have, just say, used them. I can't even say use them. It's more like we've worked together
Yeah. Yeah.
to make the world better for myself and the people around me. And the curious thing was when I first started getting in contact with them, they're like, "Whoa, he's actually talking to us!" It's like, it's like they were waiting for ages for me to actually even recognize them. So once they did get recognition, that was like, well, that's easy. So it's easy because they're waiting. They are actually ready for us.
They
It's
are.
a matter of just reaching out. Yeah, yeah. Now, many people talk about ascension and frequency, but often miss the practical how behind it. What specific tools or modalities do you use to help raise someone's frequency and protect their spiritual health?
Ooh, good question. There's a lot of things we can do to raise frequency. What works for me may not work for you. We have to figure out what works for us, and we have to ask ourselves, why does this work for us also? Don't just blindly trust. So when I'm working with angels, I'm always vetting them. I want to make sure I don't have an imposter, a shapeshifter, or whatever. There's a lot of ways to vet them. So when it comes to these elements of raising frequency, some of the basics are using pure essential oils. An essential oil, homeopathic, like Bach flower remedies, and those elements work on the spiritual body around us, and it goes into the physical. And so while we're doing this, every flower essence, every Bach flower essence, every essential oil have different frequencies and different properties. What works for you and why? My favorite tried and true essential oil is frankincense and myrrh. So when the Christ child was born, the three magi, the three magician gifted the Christ child frankincense, gold, and myrrh, right? Well, gold makes sense. That's worth money, but why was he given tree sap, right?
Yeah,
He wasn't. He was gifted these because they're high frequency. So just last week I spoke at a conference and I was in a cabin, not in a hotel room, and I look at this picture on the wall. I'm like, "Ugh, really?" And I didn't want to deal with the problem. I just left. And I come back and the problem was still there. It was a gray alien looking through this picture. And I know it sounds nuts so saying that, but it's true.
no, it's normal.
And it was looking at me through a looking glass type of technology. It wasn't in my room because it know I would grab its little booty, right? And it'd be done. So it's looking at me through this. So I took a stream of frankincense and I went up and I made a cross going down to up, left to right, close the portal. with frankincense. So that's one of the best things we can do. You can use it in diffuser. You can literally put it on your third eye or your throat chakra. It can be expensive if you're getting the really good stuff, and you can mix it with a carrier oil such as jojoba oil or something like that, so it goes farther. Put it on your feet at night. When we sleep, we tend to leave our bodies and we come and go through the feet. So it creates a barrier of protection there. Listening to high frequency music, I am not a fan of like necessarily the binaural beats and such like that, because how do we know what's being produced is that? I don't know. I haven't tested it, right? But if we look at the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto, Messages from Water, if you're familiar with him, he tested frequencies and words and concepts on water crystals. And so he would take a slice of the water crystal, freeze it, and he would imbue it with the word love or hate. And you could see how the water crystal would become misshapen or perfectly symmetrical. He started using music. When he started using Mozart music, that music created a perfectly symmetrical and practically glowing water crystal. So we know the music of Mozart is high frequency. So maybe play low. You can even play it just so there's like one click on your volume so nobody can hear it. Mozart music on your computer, and what happens is the sound of that clearing music echoes out through your house. It's a subtle energy, but it can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And here's a fun tip for anybody who's doing a home remodel. Find those words that are important to you. Love, health, wealth, happiness, joy, whatever those words are. And if you're redoing your floors, take a Sharpie and write those words all over the floors. Or if you're repainting the walls, write them on your walls. Put them on your water heater, right? We use our water for the showers, for food, for drinking. These little things can really help. They're just fantastic little tools we can do to anchor in the spiritual into the physical.
Yeah, it's important to bring those resonances through any way you can to make life even better.
Yes.
Yeah, I even do that with sound myself at home. I found these really great videos on YouTube with solfeggio tones
Yes.
that are ambient, and some of them run for hours. And one of my favorite goes for 3 hours and 33 minutes, which is magical number as well.
Perfect. Right.
Yeah, and when I put that on, it just opens a space that's just calm. You have it on like you said, on a low volume, but it still can be heard, and it's just beautiful everywhere. So, yeah, it does change absolutely everything. Now, can you walk us through some of the protection techniques featured in your soul health course or spiritual defense course that you use for energy protection?
Yes. So, and one of the biggest false truths we have is just to surround yourself in a bubble of white light. It sounds great, but how many of us have been children, right? What do we do with bubbles? We pop them. They have no structure around them, so they're easy to pop. So, what if we take that bubble and we turn it into a tetrahedron, a four-sided pyramid, three walls and a floor? And now this is a spiritual practice. I can visualize myself in this tetrahedron, three walls and a floor. I'm inside of it. I'm going to run a violet flame up through it. I'm going to run a rain of salt down through it too, because salt cleanses in all dimensions, or maybe frankincense oil. This is a visualization technique. These are spiritual practices. If you can't see this, that's okay. You can feel it, you can sense it. Those senses are just as important, if not more important than seeing, okay? We put way too much weight on the ability to see dead people, for example. Who cares? We just need to cross them over. So putting yourself in this tetrahedron is a big deal because it's a force field. So if you have to go to a hospital, if you have to go into a liquor store, these places are always haunted. Put yourself in a tetrahedron. Then bring in three angels. I'm going to have an angel in front of me and one on each side of me. Give them the instructions to remove whatever is coming at me that is not for my greater good right now. That's one of the biggest tips I think we can do for self-preservation, spiritual protection. But those courses have a lot in them.
Yeah, well, books also delve into real-world impacts of unseen interference. Can you share a particular story or insight that stands out from spiritual war or battle with the dark side?
Let's see. God, there's so many. Something that I've had, what was my biggest? Okay, there's many types of hauntings. All right, we think of the dead people haunting the living, right? So the dead can haunt the living can haunt the dead can haunt the dead. The dark entities can haunt the living, the dark entities can haunt the dead. Okay, so it gets, this unseen energetic world gets really busy. I remember I was being haunted by a living person who I didn't know I was being haunted by. And I didn't even know this concept could exist. But if we can think about it in the most basic terms, like somebody gives you the evil eye, that means something. But this haunting was beyond that. This was a psychic attack that went on for 2 years, and I couldn't figure out what it was about. And I would get choked at night. I would get scratches on me, all of this stuff. And I'm like, what the heck? And I didn't know where it was coming from. It was coming from, I found out later, my former business partner's living sister, who was jealous of this relationship my business partner and I had. Was like, whatever. I mean, it made no sense to me. And then I'm sitting in a acupuncturist's office. And all of a sudden, I get a spontaneous past life recall where the sister in a past life choked me to death, murdered me. And once I had that knowledge, it broke the spell, so to speak. And she couldn't do that to me anymore.
Wow.
So, there's no such thing as no such thing. I mean, I've been through the gamut. I have been choked by a reptilian who is no one else can see him so hard. I literally passed out on the floor. I've been bitten and scratched and vampire, but all these things. I don't wallow in the pity of it. It's like, you know what? I learned something. Always take with whatever you have happened to you, positive, negative, neutral. What did I learn?
Yes.
When we can have that, I'm going to call it luxury because we're taking the emotion out of it. Okay, I learned this. I really learned the lesson of how a living person can haunt another living person, which lent itself into voodoo practices, black magic, and things like that as well. It's all tied together. And I'm not saying that to scare people. It's just, it is what it is. And when we have that knowledge, we take their power away. We go in our own power again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a matter of being aware, really, and then in that awareness, realizing what's good for you. You've got two paths often represented to you nearly in every situation, and your next choice is the choice that's going to increase you or decrease you and your experience of the world. Making wise choices helps.
Does that, it does.
Now, is there any question that you thought I should have asked that I didn't ask?
Does sage really work to clear a house? How's that?
Yeah, well, I think it does. Definitely. I mean, it's the same, like you said, with frankincense. The reason why these tools exist is because they have been
Yes.
used for millennia.
They've been used for millennia, and not every tool will fix the problem, right? So a lot of people will utilize frankincense to do one thing or sage to do one thing when that's really not in its job description. So we have to learn what the job description is of these spiritual tools and why. So knowing this gives us even more power. Learning about the homeopathic remedies that we have available to us, even the physical minerals that we have available to us. Magnesium, for example, in the United States, our soils are pretty poisoned and everybody's running around magnesium deficient. So what do we can take a physical supplement like a magnesium pill to make us physically stronger. We can take a homeopathic for the spiritual energetic aspect of us too, to make us stronger that way. It's all so important. And I guess the one question is about maybe chakras. Chakras are our own energy. They're like almost like energy portals, right? Where when they're balanced, aligned, and attuned, we're really strong, right? We have great vision. We have great insight, great intuition. But when they're beaten up, when they are dirty, when they are these types of things, we need to clean and clear them ourselves. Never, ever have anybody open a chakra for you. We can clean, clear, balance, and restore them, But when we open up a chakra, we're damaging the petals, the blades, and it allows for cracks in our foundation. So if we can clean, clear, balance, and restore them, it puts us into a great sense of alignment that goes up and through the body. And it gives us a really nice force field and foundation to move forward.
Okay. Now, for anyone feeling overwhelmed by this unseen energetic activity, what simple steps can they start taking today towards optimizing their soul's health and well-being?
Before you jump out of bed in the morning, meditate and pray for 2 minutes. Prayer is talking to God source energy, the divine. Meditating is listening to God source energy and the divine. If you're meditating and you're getting messages, you want to vet those messages to make sure they come from pure God source energies. How do we do that, right? We can visualize those messages running frankincense oil through them. We can bring up a violet flame. There's a lot of little things we can do. But if you take those 4 minutes before you jump out of bed, it can really shift the day for you. You may find that when you come into an antagonistic situation with the boss or whatever, or a coworker, that you have that moment where you just you breathe. And when you breathe, you pause. And then you can respond through wisdom and insight versus a knee jerk reaction. I think that's one of the easiest, it's free, and most powerful things we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Laura, how can people find you and your books and all of your content?
Thank you. LauraVanTine.com, and the social medias are the same, Laura Van Tine. Would love to hear from you. The books are all on Amazon. They're on Barnes and Nobles also. And the book Soul Tribe, Navigating the Spiritual Wars, the first book, and it's a handbook. It's a tool book on what you can do to grow your soul tribe and do it with discernment, do it with a level of safety also. All too often we get excited. It's like, oh my gosh, I got all these, angelics and all these things around me. I'm so excited, but my ego takes over. And all of a sudden you get some imposters slipping in and it's going to derail you. So always check and always vet your guides.
Absolutely. That's definitely a good message. Thank you so much for coming on today, Laura, and sharing your understanding of the spirit world and the unseen world and how that intersects and how it's affected you and how you can help others and your own self to work with that.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. And as I told you in the beginning, I love talking to Australia because I know the future exists.
All right. I'll just say goodbye to the listeners.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks again to Laura for coming on the show and sharing your tumultuous story. That was really tough and rough for you early on in life there. And I'm sure that the listeners will agree that it's great that you've come through and found ways to reclaim your soul sovereignty, and all power to you for writing your books and getting that information out to others. And if you've enjoyed today's show, please reach out to Laura and say hello and thank her for coming on the show. I'm sure she'd appreciate that. And if you've enjoyed today's show, like and subscribe. It's free. And also, if you're on a podcast app and having a listen, 5 stars would be really nice. Please rate us and write something really nice. And until next episode, it's bye for now. Subscribe.